Welcome back. It's Halloween time again. We want to make sure your kids are staying safe while hitting the streets for sweets. Joining me now is Trooper James O'Callahan from the New York State Police Department with some tips on how to keep your kiddos safe. Welcome, Trooper O. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. You know, Halloween is an exciting time of the year. The kids are having fun, parents are partying, but it's also, unfortunately, a pretty dangerous time, too. So can you talk about some statistics and how risky things are?
One of the things we have to look at is if you're under 18 years old, this is the deadliest day of the year for you. So that's why we're going out there. We join all the local law enforcement agencies. We will have road checks. Obviously, we have extra patrols out there for kids, not only for street safety, but also for maybe teens getting into things they shouldn't, right? But when we look at stats, New York State Police issued in a 5-day span leading up to Halloween, 10,000 tickets, 160 DWI arrests, and 1,100 collisions.
Wow.
Now, when you look at the fatality collisions in 2022, when it impacts 18 and below, half of those were DWI related. So that's why we're pushing pretty tough on this. You know, any amount of alcohol in your system, you obviously the risk is higher that you could impact your driving ability and hit someone. We always say like the legal limit 0.08, but anything in your system, at this point with this many kids on the road can impact their life and your own.
That's right, and because just think about it, about how many people are packed on the streets and walking, and there's kids running around, there's teenagers running around, so even with you not being impaired, just it being dark at night and these kids packing the streets and running around is dangerous. So imagine throwing any sort of substance into that mix.
Right. I was going through WIVB's trick-or-treat times, and I noticed a lot of them were 4 to 8 or 4 to 7 or 5 to 7, in that span. Well, it's dark out.
Yeah.
So you are right. It's going to be nighttime, a lot of little kids. This is a fun time to have. I have kids that we've done the trick-or-treat thing. It's a blast, right? When you go out with your parents, your kids are dressed up, everyone's amped up. As a dad or a mom, there's a dad tax, so you're getting some of that candy, right? So it's a great time, but safety is paramount. You want to make sure at the end of the day, you and your family go home safely. And there are kids everywhere, darting out in front of the street, cars and other things. But that's where we're at. We want to make sure parents intentionally talk to your kids. A street is still a street. Just because it's Halloween doesn't change. It's not a runway to run across now.
Right.
You have to just kind of lay down the ground rules.
And you were saying a trick, especially for parents with those kids that are old enough they're faster than them. You can throw an air tag on them, right?
Yeah. So if it's one of the things where you don't want to constantly run following your kid, dude, think about the excitement in a child, man. They're going 100 miles an hour between these houses, right? Knocking on the door, getting the candy, going to the next one. Sometimes as a parent, it's difficult to keep up. And if you're talking with other parents, as you walk and talk, you're slower than the kids. Let's just face it.
Yeah.
You could throw an air tag on your kid. It's just something like, oh man, they made it down to the end of the street. You can always check that. It's just another thing you could add to the safety of where your child is.
And now we always talk about it. We don't need to harp on it, but the candy is what's exciting. How do we make sure our kids are being safe with what they're taking in?
So candy, it's extremely rare. I don't want to scare people. It's extremely rare that candy would have something in it, like a razor blade. You always hear the horror stories, right? We haven't had that, at least in Western New York, for quite some time, years. But we do always tell people, if it's not in original packing, right? I'm just going to use Kit Kats because they're awesome. So if it's not, in its original packing, or if it's already opened, throw that away. So the popcorn bag and the popcorn in a sandwich bag, homemade cookies, an apple, any sort of fruit or vegetable, that's stuff that just gets tossed. You don't know what the ingredients are, you don't know how that could affect your kids. And obviously with the legalization of marijuana, maybe that treat was meant for a different party and all of a sudden it ended up in your kid's bag. You just never know. So get rid of that stuff. Go with brand name candy, sealed candy.
That's right. And when kids are walking down the street, especially those young kids, how do we make sure those costumes are safer?
So the costumes, any sort of reflective, anything, obviously, depending on the costume. If you're dressed up as the guy from Scream, you're all in black, right, with the white mask. But have some sort of visibility, a blinking light. Maybe you don't have to throw like a fully reflective coat on, but a blinking light or somewhere where people can see you, because obviously as a driver of a vehicle, you know how fast things could happen.
Yeah.
And when even a smaller or mid-sized child, depending on your car, isn't higher than the hood of your car, things can happen quick. So be prepared as an operator to stop at a moment's notice, but also as the person going out trick-or-treating, highly visible. That includes our parents too, walking on the side of the road, highly visible.
That's a good point. Parents, don't forget about yourself and your
right?
safety when
Yeah,
walking
you want to go home,
around.
right? Someone's got to take your kids home at the end of
Someone's
the
got to
night.
take the kids home.
Right.
Well, again, Trooper O, coming in, we have you come in because we want people to have so much fun, but we just want people to be aware of what the risks are and things to keep in mind, those precautions, right?
No, absolutely. And like I said, you look at under 18, it's the deadliest day of the year. Everyone's excited. Everyone wants to go out and do this. It's kind of like a normal thing to do, but you have to be, as a parent, in control. Like, hey, don't cross the street. Look both ways. We're going to be with you. Keep track of your kids. If you have to air tag them because they're faster than you, air tag them. Highly visible parents, because typically parents are the ones walking in the roadway, right? So just make yourself highly visible. Go through these talks, and obviously, at the end of the day, everyone wants to go home. Don't drink and drive. That's the big one, because, like I said, our fatalities have a lot to do with DWIs.
Yeah. Well, Trooper O, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in. Viewers, to summarize, while you're trick-or-treating, make sure you stay in groups, look both ways before crossing the street, and add some glow sticks or bright colors to stay visible. Do not drink and drive. And when you're checking candy, make sure you don't take any baked goods or candy that is not in its original wrapping. And if you find candy that has been tampered with, make sure you call 911. Lastly, if you're driving anywhere, especially during dusk when people are out, make sure you drive slowly. Don't wear a mask while you drive. And as always, never drive intoxicated. Thanks again for coming in, Trooper O.
Thank you very much.